Something that deals with the fact that we are operating within an electoral system that we did not create. And in a few parts of the country that has begun to change, as Greens have played a pivotal role in getting preferential voting and instant runoff voting and public financing into elections. Right? If you are a resident of the Twin Cities in Minnesota or San Francisco, then you actually get to be part of an electoral system that maybe we did have a hand in creating. But pretty much the rest of us are living within an electoral system that was designed in order to prevent independent progressive parties from emerging, from taking hold, and from surviving. And of course the Green Party is not 60 or 70 years old, although our roots go back a long ways. But these were laws that were passed in the 1940s and 1950s across the country to strangle the Progressive Party, the Farm Labor Party, the American Labor Party, the Communist Party, the Socialist Party in particular. And those laws are still in the books today. So we're operating in that electoral arena. And I think that what is very important for us to do is to not operate in that electoral arena in a reactive way, in a way where things are said about us, but we don't really fully understand or don't have an analysis for how we're going to succeed despite the obstacles, right? But to have an understanding of what it means to be a political party that is the Green Party operating in the system. So that's what this discussion is about. So I'm going to take a look at political parties for a second, just to frame this, and recognize that political parties in this country have various dimensions to them, different faces to them. Right? The Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Green Party are actually more than one party. There is the party at the ballot box. In other words, the people who show up to vote, right? The electoral aspect of the party. So let's call it the party at election time. And for the Democrats and Republicans, there is an entire industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry that has been built up around the party at election time. There's the party in government, not the same as the party in elections, right? Democrats in office, Republicans in office, Greens in office are a different party than the party at election time, and then the third category, which is the party as a tribe, right? And that's something we deal with a lot. Democrats, the Republicans, yes, even the Greens, we are tribalistic. It's like rooting for the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Mets, right? People want their team to win. They're born into political parties. Many voters vote habitually. Now, the Greens have been around long enough that there are Greens in my hometown in Madison, Wisconsin, who were born into the Green Party who are running for office, right? They are green diaper babies, so to speak, right? And very effective activists, some of them, you know. So we have this aspect of tribalism too. Now, I name these things not to denigrate them or to raise them up, but just to identify them, because if you understand what the reality is, if you agree this is the reality of these political parties and our politics today, then you actually aren't dominated by them. Right? You can do something about it. You can recognize that a Democrat in government is different than an operator, you know, an apparatchik, a political operator who works on campaigns. And they don't necessarily see eye to eye or have the same interests. Or the Democrats who are tribalistic, or Republicans who are tribalistic are not necessarily the same, right? And then we also have some aspects of this. I mean, Greens can be tribalistic too. And do we want to be? Do we want to be exclusive? Do we want to be inclusive? Final thing here. The Green Party has a fourth dimension. We have another dimension to us that the other parties don't have. We are a party in the streets. We are a movement party. We have always been a movement party. We come out of movements, we go into movements, we play leadership roles in key movements today. And this puts us in a very difficult spot because we have values that are about things like direct democracy and grassroots democracy, which run contrary to the fact that we're also a party in elections. So when you elect people, you're giving them authority to make decisions for you. But we're a party that believes in grassroots democracy, right? When you're a party that is feminist and you're dealing with a patriarchal electoral and political system, you're dealing with some serious conflicts, and those can become internalized. So these are some of the things that I want to raise for us, because I want us to continue to be successful, to become more successful, and to overcome this inherent tension in being, and I'll frame it this way, a party that's both in the streets and also seeking to be in government, seeking to expand the tribe, to change values, right, to get people to join the Green Banner, and to win elections. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take 2 to 3 minute responses from each of our response panelists, see what that introduction has provoked. Then we're going to go to you, and I'll take a number of people at a time to ask questions or make comments, and then I'll bring it back to them, and we'll have a discussion like that. So who would like to start? Ursula?
I can start, sure. Well, I really like how you said, let's not be reactive. And that really, for me, takes it to the need to plan a little bit what we're going to be doing. And we have to be reacting because we're not the ones that have the reins of power, so we'll always be reacting. But also, there are things we have control over, which is our behavior and what we do between campaigns. So I think that today I've heard some very great ideas from people here about things that we can do right now, or that maybe we should have started a couple months ago, but ways that we can be looking forward to really engage people and engage our allies, and also build the infrastructure, the contacts. I was just telling Jill, I love her Green Voter Power Pledge, and I see it as a great way to build contacts and also really underline that we are the party that's going to stand up against all of the above energy policy. And yeah, so I think that planning is really important for us, and it takes a lot of work. And I'm very excited too to see these new ideas for being seen within movements and being proud to be Greens. So I think that, given the energy from this campaign school and in other states, I think we're going in the right direction.
Thank you. Gloria.
Okay, thanks. Well, thanks, Ben. I'm definitely provoked by what you said. And I agree with Ursula on the kind of reactionary piece of it, and you, but also Ben also said quietly, and it's going to keep this on a real positive kind of energy note, and I feel that way too. But I actually think that the Green Party, on many levels, national and down to the local bodies, whether they're organized or just groups of Greens getting together, have to have a real serious discussion about their participation and their place in the movement, because I think it is valuable that we are both, and that we have that, that fourth dimension that other parties don't have. And that is how we've established, I think, our credibility in many ways, that we don't show up every 4 years with a big pile of money and, paid campaign staffers on the ground and, just putting out piles of propaganda on paper, and then we disappear. It doesn't even mean anything. We stay connected to the things we're talking about when we're running an electoral campaign. But I think there's some dangers for Greens getting very involved in movements and what those movements are. I like the way that Ben said streets, but because I feel that for us sometimes to participate in something where we're all standing like cattle in a corral with many other NGOs and kind of liberal organizations, I don't know if that serves us well. We better have good goals if we're putting our limited resources there. But being in the street in the way the Occupy movement is done, and the way other more direct democracy, what's happening now in Texas and Oklahoma, I think that is really important. And I'll conclude, because I probably started too long, is that I think also the Greens sometimes, this is a system that's broken, not just the electoral system. I think we know that, and I would love a conversation in the Green Party at some point about, yes, we are anti-corporate, but we're not anti-capitalist, or are we anti-capitalist, or what is the value of having that conversation, and is this a system that we're even going to be able to make sweeping changes, getting even elected a small group of people to office?
Excellent. And Michael.
Well, the concept or the facet that I most resonated with that you described was the party as a tribe. And at the risk of abusing that metaphor, in terms of the facet of the Green Party that I'm interested in right now in it being a tribe, is that one of the key functions of a tribe is to pass knowledge from one generation to another, right? To pass the traditions, the crafts, how to make the tools, where to plant, how to make things, how to celebrate things. That provides a cultural cohesion and a material capacity to a group of people. And that is what I've been most focused on in my work as co-chair in this current term. And running a party is a craft, it's a set of skills. Being a street activist is a craft, it's a set of skills. How to make a great looking banner, how to make a great looking costume, how to chant for 3 hours without tearing out your voice, how to write great chants that are not the same that everyone has heard before, that just like turned into vowels and consonants over time that had no meaning, how to give a stump speech as a candidate, how to dress as a candidate for television. And I have a vision of one of the ways at this phase in our party's development that we can build our sense of community cohesion is through the teaching each other of these different skills that a lot of us have picked up, maybe in our individual work, at our day jobs, or in previous involvement in movements that we've been in. And I think that it also resonates with something that Ben mentioned earlier, which is that part of the reward of the Green Party is each other. So we're in a culture right now where learning is cool. Being a geek is cool. People have meetups for everything from making craft beer in your garage to making vegan mittens out of soy yarn. And I think that learning how to be a kick-butt candidate is as interesting, if not more, than any of those things. And that's a way to get us off of our laptops, out of our homes, in rooms together, learning from each other in the way that we've been doing today, in a way that's energizing for us, that's attractive for new people coming in, and that ultimately builds our skills so we can do bigger and better things more often.
All right. Good. You guys, great job as responding to us. How about a round of applause?
Is that it?
All right, so are you provoked? Thinking about this, guys? Let's take a show of hands and gender stack where possible. And so let's take 5 people who have something to contribute. So one hand over here. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Is there a 5th person right now? Okay, that's great. Let's start over here. Fast.
Julia.
Okay, perfect.
I like where Michael was going about the idea of educating people, but the idea of doing it in rooms like this seems so limiting when we have YouTube and the Khan Academy and the internet. Is the Green Party thinking about creating an educational platform for issues and engaging potential candidates in an online platform?
So it's good. So we're going to hold on to these. So response panelists, hold on to these questions and comments. And thank you. Great start. Number 2 is in the back. Okay.
Thanks. Thank you for this. It is a very interesting way to frame things. What I was thinking, well, when I heard you talking, was that as limited as our election expertise is, we do know how to operate as a party at election time. I think we're far weaker in terms of being a party in government and in the party as a tribe, and that we really need to build those things up. I was very inspired earlier hearing you talk about all the Greens who have been elected in Madison and all the great work that they've been able to do, how they were the first to pass the living wage and stuff like that. I think we need to capture and publicize those stories, and that's something that the National Party, I think, can do a good job of collating and getting out to people. I don't know if any of you saw our most recent fundraising letter, but we had some candidates and officials in there talking about what they do because we thought that was very inspiring. So I'd like to see us do more of that, and I can certainly help facilitate that. I think a lot of people are hesitant to vote for Greens and hesitant to work in the Green Party because they don't see us as being ready to step into government. And so I think we've got to be able to express ourselves more succinctly on our policy ideas. We tend to write these extremely long manifestos that nobody can read. It's got to come down to 1 or 2 key points on an issue. That's my feeling. And also, just to publicize the people we do have in government, and not only in the US, but around the world. We have Greens making a difference in government. So I think that's really important. As a party, as a tribe, I think that's perhaps one of the places where we can make the most difference right now. We do have people who love the idea of the Green Party, who love Jill's campaign, and I think we have an opportunity if we can create more social events and more opportunities for people to build relationships among each other. We've been doing that out of Colin Bevan's campaign in Brooklyn, some brand new people to the party. And they said, you know, we want to keep hanging out together. We like each other. And so there's more political activity that is coming out of that. And I find that very promising. We need to work on our personal relations sometimes. We're a little too contentious and negative toward each other. But if we can build that sense of a tribe as a thing we can be proud of and excited about belonging to, that's going to be a big thing for our success.
Excellent. Okay, number 3 is over here.
Yes. I'm sorry, I brought some of this up before about even more preliminary, getting a local chapters started. Because Simon, even a good number of you here know I do. I live in New Jersey over in Hudson County, and there's not a chapter for the Green Party where I live. Jointly, because I am a member of NOW, there's a lot of common interest. And I had mentioned that some of the topics that pertain to the Green Party, the equivalent of Keystone nationally on the local level is the no gas pipeline that's in this area, and I'm a government worker, civil service, so these paltry union contracts, obviously minimum wage, organized labor, those are major issues, and to try to get the morale, the common interest around tackling this corruption, because admittedly a lot of it's coming from the Democrats where I live, and there's a lot of tax abatement, party boss stuff going on. So I could use some support as to getting the chapters established, morale, getting people involved in the causes and in the issues, and then after such juncture, then starting to promote candidates. Because Joe, I know you had said, emphasized the difficulty in getting a campaign manager. That takes a lot of work. So that would have to come later. Getting the morale and the involvement and the mutual commitment to come first.
Great. I'm going to come back to the next round in a little bit. We're going to finish up with this stack, and then we'll bring it back over here, and then you'll be number 1 on the next one. Sure, Julia, and then we'll go to Tom.
Yeah, it was great. Everything I heard, I resonated with completely, especially like the tribe aspect of each one. That's how Cuba got a 99% literacy rate. When came in, they went to an each one teach one process in terms of literacy, and it works. And it works at all kinds of levels. It's not just literacy. So I really like hearing that. Because as a matter of fact, just for those of you that are anti-capitalist, the party has room for us. I'm an anti-capitalist. It isn't a solely, you gotta be a capitalist in part of the party. So I have to say that one. There's room for the rest of us. Particularly I wanted to, we start beating our breast about we're not doing so well because look how they did in Madison and so forth and so on. And I live in New York City. There's that great big banner over there. And you run for different reasons. In New York City, with the craziness of a city of 8.5 million people has all of 58 elected representatives, that is totally nuts. That means the smallest district is 250,000. That is completely crazy. Therefore, to say we can't run unless we run a credible campaign, and credible campaign means you're going to get elected, is a major mistake in this city. How can you write off 8.5 million people? You've got to give them a chance to vote for somebody. There are plenty of people out there that are anti the Democrats, anti the Republicans. If we're not there to give them some place to cast that vote, and also to get the habit. They tell you if you sign a petition once, whatever the petition's cause was, they do it sociologically. They measure your commitment to it. Signing a petition once enhances your commitment the next time. And the same thing, they vote green once. Maybe not everyone will vote green again, but some percentage of them will. So we have to run candidates whether or not they can run a quote unquote credible campaign. The name on the ballot gives somebody a chance to cast a vote against what they really hate.
Great. Number 5? Tom?
Yeah, I think that we have to learn how to deal with each other in a more compassionate way, those of us who are activists in the Green Party. There are those who feel comfortable getting involved with the inner workings of the Green Party, and that's necessary, and that's fine. There are others that feel more comfortable getting involved not only with the Green Party, but also in movements like the anti-nuclear movement, the anti-fracking movement. I mean, there's just so much time and energy that one can expend on these things. So naturally, those people are not going to be able to put their full focus on the inner workings of the party. We have to learn to accept these different approaches. And I also think that we have to learn more to accept those people who we differ with within the party. So instead of maybe trying to figure out a way around them or to try to ignore them, we have to include them and do the hard work of trying to deal with them and bring them into a fuller participation in the party.
Excellent. Okay, so response panelists.
To what Jake brought up about online learning, I think we need both. I think online tutorials, online discussions, Khan Academy style YouTube videos showing how-tos, you tape or you video what you've practiced or what you've demoed in a setting like this or a smaller setting. You upload that so then people who couldn't make it to that can see it, right? And then they watch that a few times and then they meet up with other Greens and practice it together. And then maybe someone who is a Green without a local to affiliate with, they learn some stuff online, then they maybe share it with some friends, and then you practice it together. So I think it's self-reinforcing. You need both. And I think we have a lot of room for growth in both of those vectors. I completely agree that we need to be really conscious in terms of dealing with each other compassionately, both in the context of campaigns and then also in terms of general party maintenance. I think there's a lot of empathy that we need to kind of gear up in terms of understanding that we all have a different piece of the puzzle, and all these different pieces are necessary, and they take different types of personalities and different types of skills, and just working really hard to see the value in what different people bring in terms of their work and their availability and their level of involvement. I do think, though, that the launching an insurgent third party in New York State, much less across the country, I mean, that's probably going to be at least as challenging as launching, say, Instagram, right? Or something like that, or a similar startup company. And so when you think about like that we're actually going to do this and how difficult that would be and how challenging that would be, then that makes you really think about how you prioritize your time and what kinds of things you're willing to put up with in terms of how we actually go about doing this thing, this project, this movement, and how many meetings can you flake out on before actually this thing just isn't going to get done? Anyway, sorry if I went too long.
Yeah, sure. Kind of off of what Michael said, I think I'm a big fan of planning and at least trying to have a plan, and if it doesn't work out, at least you try to follow your plan and you have a guide. And I think that is, and plans include planning your work, and I think it's very important. You might have differences with people, but you really judge how the work's going by whether or not people are fulfilling their end of the bargain and if they're prioritizing the work that you've committed to doing together. So it's, it does take commitment, and I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do is prioritize what we're committing to do and fulfilling our commitments to one another. And it'll really, I think that will ease any interpersonal conflicts, or allow us to understand one another better if we really do what we say we're going to do and celebrate those people that are doing what they say they're going to do and doing their best. And I just want to say too that I like what Karen said about the National Party as a vehicle to celebrate our successes, and that's something that the Youth Caucus just formed at the end of Jill's campaign, and we're still developing our infrastructure and how we're going to be doing things, but one of the main things we want to do is really to celebrate and highlight what young Greens are doing around the country to share ideas with one another about what's possible, and that youth can be leaders, and just the great ideas, the creative ideas that we have coming out all across the country.
Great. The wonderful thing I think about being the end plenary is you can take all the things you heard throughout the day. And so I guess I know Julia had to go, but to address the issue of credibility as a candidate, I think there's a real big open space between what's a winnable race. And some of us who were in Lynn's workshop before heard a lot of great criteria around that, and then what's just get a name on the ballot so people say there's choice. Also, that has it's valuable. But I think we've heard in all the workshops between what Michael and Sarah were talking about and other people, which is the credibility is defined in a lot of ways, and that's from how the candidate presents themselves, what kind of team they have, what their website looks like, what kind of issues. Karen raised the issue of, long, tiny type, statements giving out on the, in the street as opposed to a really succinct 5 bullet point program. So I think all those things that we've been learning and sharing, having a dialogue today, I think make credible campaigns. And so it's not about winning, especially in we're trying to focus on New York City where most of us are. It's, the smallest district is just kind of ridiculous. On the issue of I appreciate Tom raising the issue about where people kind of find their place and their skills in terms of inner party workings, which you need, and in other milieus, in the movement milieu. I think that what it requires really is being thoughtful about making those decisions and using your resources in kind of a wise, kind of economical way. And maybe those two parts of the party need to communicate a little bit more on a skill sharing level. So those Greens that are in those movements, that must be very frustrating, because I know that Greens want to say, I'm in the Green Party, and I know that Tom and other people in this room really tried to talk about Jill's campaign in some of these movement areas, and they were taken from no, be quiet, to kind of just tolerate it. How can we help those of us who are well more versed in the party organization and other kinds of things? How can we sit down and talk about that? And I think that might be an important goal for us here in New York, where people are kind of split down that way. And just the last point, Karen said something really important to me: we're not ready to govern. And how should we be learning how to do that? Days like this are good. I'm looking outside of this country. I'm thinking about Sarisa. I'm thinking about people who found themselves at the bottom of an explosive movement, and then all of a sudden they are in government. And what is going on there? And some people have come to talk about that, and I'd like to see us engage in some of those discussions and see what we need to do to show that we know how to govern when elected.
Great. Thank you. I had one hand. I wanted to see if there's two more. One. Okay, so good. So we have two more, and then we're going to close it up. And we built in some extra time here, so I think we're doing okay right now. We built in 15 minutes. So go ahead. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a few points that I've noticed that perhaps the Green Party might be lacking in, and it's who to approach and how to approach them. And
Can everybody hear?
And you could tell from a lot of people that there aren't a lot of low-income people participating. Low-income neighborhoods don't even know what the Green Party is. I think a lot of minorities, whether racial or ethnic, don't know who the Green Party is. I think like a lot of let's see. I mean, like one topic is that we're anti-war, but where are the recruitment centers? They're in poor, low-income areas. So maybe we could target places like that. And historically in America, where has change come from? It's come from low-income people, from immigrants, from working-class people. It's rarely come or inspired by people from the middle class, whether lower or upper. And I think that that's a really important because that's also where these European parties and a lot of movements around the world have really spawned from. Because I think a lot of us care about issues, but maybe they don't affect us as much as other people. And we have to really communicate with the people who are most affected by the economy, by a unsafe living environment, and also focusing on quality of life issues, open space, green space, and education, children learning, really setting them into that kind of, I guess, culture of conservatism or of green thinking, but making it practical for people in low-income areas. They can't spend $4.50 on granola. Let's be honest, they're paying a lot of money for their budgets to get the worst of the worst. And it's unfair, and I think it's really important to come out to try and work with people like that, who really, I think, need to support a lot of the issues that we support, but they don't know about the Green Party or its history or anything about it. So that's something I've noticed over the years.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad Steve brought that all up, because that's what I'm directing my campaign on, as you can see from my website. Identifying with the insurgency in all the communities, whether it's the Bronx, South Bronx community, Congress, or the eviction of Rebel Diaz from their space in the South Bronx by Bloomberg's police and federal marshal, who were up there right away for a hip-hop concert, or cleaning up the Hutchinson River in the Bronx, which is the toxic waste dump of New York City, aiming at those particular issues that precisely Steve, and that community of people you're talking about. Because the Bronx has been run by the Democratic Party for a century, and it's not amusing, it's important, okay, to aim for the low income. How many people of color in this room?
Right.
So you can check my website and join my campaign, because I'm doing that big time.
Thanks, Tony.
Good. So we're going to go to some final responses for those who haven't, and then we're going to wrap up. So, and I'll have one thing to add too.
Sure. Well, early on in the day, Ben made this point that says, generally, the Green Party are highly educated people that actually aren't very high income, maybe mid-income, but it's just who we are as a party, the majority of the party, and we're working on changing that. And so we have the caucuses that exist to help increase diversity in the party. But I just want to say, I don't know, what was your name? Stephen, you made the comment that you don't see the Green Party in the low-income neighborhoods, for example. But when I ran for Congress in Central New York, and my highest vote percentages were in the parts of the district that were the most distressed economically. So it just shows that once the public sees a Green candidate and hears a Green candidate, that they respond. And earlier on a panel, Lynn was giving the example of how she got involved near her, wherever she lives, in her community garden, in a part of, I'm assuming it was like a housing project or something nearby. And so we have to be looking down the road of what we're doing as individuals, as activists in our community, because we can't just show up and say, hey, we're the Green Party, we're going to solve all your problems. We have to build relationships with people. But I just wanted to bring that up about my campaign, that once people have the opportunity to hear our positions and our solutions, they're on board. And I had a great time going out and talking with people all throughout the city. It's very diverse in Syracuse, and just talking to people about the issues in common language, and figuring out who are you talking to? Are you talking to a younger person, an older person, and what issue might resonate with that person? When I was talking to young people of color, telling them I think we need to legalize marijuana because too many people go to jail for something that's not a crime. And they were like, whoa, we've never heard a politician say anything like this. Are you seriously running for office? And so it's just, you know, once you're a candidate, you're more credible and people listen to what you have to say rather than if you're just a community activist. So that's like the strength that being a candidate for office gives you. You know, you're able to go into diverse communities, whether it's rich communities, poor communities, student communities, and you know, bring our positions to people. And so that's why everyone should run for office.
You know, one thing that occurs to me in terms of making the party available to low-income communities is we, as a party organization, we need to provide things like on-site childcare, so that, you know, people can bring their kids and they don't have to hire a sitter, right? Scholarships to things like, not scholarships, but monetary support for things like our state convention or for our national meetings, right? But the state party or the national party can only do that if the state party and the national party have money. Mm-hmm. So those of us who have some discretionary income, that's something to think about and something to organize within our, you know, those levels that we work on to make those material assets available, because we definitely need to be working in those communities and speaking and offering attention, but also there's privilege involved in this. There's privilege involved with being able to take a day to go to a campaign school or any other kind of training. And so there's some material things that need to be done, and we've got to get on it immediately.
So, just because of time,
sorry about that.
I'm fine.
Yeah. I mean, this is an important, there's a couple important conversations that came up in the course of the discussion here, and then there's also sort of the initial conversation as well, and they're related. Right. And I would just ask people as you're leaving from here later on tonight, to be thinking about how these concepts of, you know, the party as a tribe, well, what does that mean? Who are the members of the tribe, right? Is it an inclusive or exclusive? Is it a subculture? Is it a counterculture? Is it something else? Is it an overall social transformation that's happening that cuts across race and class and other lines, or is it more specifically located? You know, and what does it mean to be both a tribe and electoral? You know, how you operate around people who maybe are a little difficult to deal with. You know, we all can be difficult to deal with in different ways, but frankly, some people, you know, I found to be more difficult than others. You know, I'm honest about it. You know, maybe different if it's in the party as a tribe kind of situation than at election time when things got to get done on a certain timeline. So I hope this sort of is helpful. I think that there's some great perspectives that you guys shared. I want to thank everybody.